Try to tickle yourself. Go ahead. Right now. Run your fingers along your ribs, your armpits, the soles of your feet. Nothing. Maybe a little sensation. But that specific, involuntary, losing your mind, can't catch your breath response, gone. Doesn't matter how fast you do it. Doesn't matter how much you try to catch yourself off guard. Your brain wins every single time. Most people figure the answer is obvious. You know you're about to do it, so you're not surprised. Surprise is what makes tickling work. End of story. But that's not quite right, and the real answer is far stranger than a reflex. Because your brain isn't just bracing for impact, it's actively erasing the sensation before it even arrives. In 1998, a neuroscientist named Sarah Jane Blakemore at University College London started poking at this exact question. She wanted to know what was actually happening inside the brain when you try to tickle yourself versus when someone else does it. So she put people in a brain scanner and tickled them in two ways. First, participants moved a joystick that controlled a robotic arm, and that robotic arm tickled their own palm. Technically, they were tickling themselves. Second, the experimenter controlled the robot, so the exact same sensation in the same spot with the same pressure arrived from someone else's decision. The difference in brain activity was striking. When someone else drove the robot, the somatosensory cortex, the part of your brain that processes touch, lit up strongly. When participants drove it themselves, that same region went noticeably quiet. Same sensation, same body part, completely different brain. And then Blakemore made the experiment weirder. She introduced a delay. When participants moved the joystick, the robot didn't respond immediately. It tickled them half a second later, and as the delay grew, something started to shift. The tickle felt more real, more like someone else was doing it. At the maximum delay, it actually started to feel ticklish. So it wasn't about expectation. It wasn't just about knowing it was coming. It was about timing. And timing points to something very specific happening inside the brain. Here's the mechanism. Every time you decide to move, your brain does two things at once. It sends a motor command to your muscles telling them what to do, and it sends a copy of that command somewhere else. A memo that reads, here's what we're about to do, here's what we're about to feel, adjust accordingly. Scientists call this an efference copy, sometimes a corollary discharge. The part of the brain doing this is the cerebellum, a dense crinkled structure at the back of your skull that most people associate with balance and coordination. But the cerebellum also runs what's called a forward model. It takes your motor commands, predicts in real time exactly what sensory feedback they're going to produce, and fires that prediction upstream before your hand even lands. So when the sensation actually arrives, the brain already has the answer. It subtracts the signal out, files it as noise, marks it as irrelevant. This is why you can feel your own hand touch your leg without the sensation being interesting. Your brain already knew it was coming. It pre-canceled the experience before it landed. When someone else touches you, no prediction was sent. The sensation arrives completely unannounced, and the brain has to deal with it at full volume. The delay in Blakemore's experiment worked precisely because it broke the timing of that prediction. If the robot responded instantly, the prediction matched reality and the brain subtracted the signal out. Delay it by half a second, and the prediction and the sensation stop lining up. The input arrives when the brain wasn't expecting it, and suddenly it registers as real. You're not less ticklish when you touch yourself. Your brain is quietly erasing the experience the moment it's generated. But that's only part of the story, and what comes next is genuinely unsettling. There are people for whom this system breaks down. People who can, in some sense, tickle themselves. And they're not who you'd expect. In the early 2000s, Blakemore and her colleagues began studying patients with schizophrenia, and found something that stopped them. Some patients reported that self-generated touch felt external, that when they moved their own hand across their skin, the sensation felt like it was coming from somewhere else. The forward model wasn't working correctly. The efference copy wasn't sending clean predictions, so the brain couldn't subtract out self-generated sensations the way it normally does. And this, researchers began to realize, might explain something far more disturbing about schizophrenia. One of its hallmark symptoms is auditory hallucinations, hearing voices. The leading theory is that those voices are the patient's own internal thoughts, their own inner monologue. But because the forward model is broken, the brain can't tag those thoughts as self-generated. It experiences them as coming from outside. The same system that stops you from tickling yourself may be the same system that, when it fails, makes your own mind feel like a stranger. Now, there's another wrinkle in all of this. Because tickling isn't one thing. Scientists split it into two separate categories. The first is called nismesis. That's the light, crawling sensation when a bug lands on your arm or a hair brushes your neck. Uncomfortable, makes you want to scratch. You can actually produce a mild version of this on yourself. The second is gargalesis. That's the deep, involuntary, laugh-producing response when someone goes for your ribs or the arch of your foot. That one requires another person, full stop. And we don't have a fully satisfying explanation for why it produces laughter. It's not joy. Watch someone being tickled against their will, and the face they make is not a happy face. The eyes aren't crinkling. It's closer to distress. Charles Darwin noticed this in 1872 and couldn't work out what to make of it. The laughter from tickling looks like a submission signal, a way of communicating to the other creature that you're overwhelmed and not a threat. Chimpanzees and gorillas produce something resembling laughter when tickled, a panting, breathy vocalization. So this response is older than language. Something about being grabbed in a vulnerable spot by another creature has been generating that noise for millions of years, and we still can't fully explain why. What we do know is that it only works when you don't see it coming. And that comes back to the cerebellum. The reason tickling requires another person isn't purely about conscious expectation. It goes deeper than that. Even if you close your eyes and try to move your fingers randomly, you still formed the intention. The cerebellum intercepts that intention, builds a forward model, and dampens the response before your fingers even land. You can't outwit your own motor planning. Someone else has their own nervous system, their own decisions, their own timing that your cerebellum has zero access to. You cannot build a forward model for someone else's actions because you're not running their brain, which means in the most literal neurological sense, you have no defense. There's even a way to test this. If you put your hand on top of the experimenter's hand while they tickle you, you become partially responsible for the movement. And as soon as partial motor intent enters the picture, partial prediction kicks in. It takes the edge off, not enough to kill it, but enough to notice. Your brain is running this model constantly. Every movement you make, every sensation that follows, the cerebellum is there, 2 steps ahead, telling your sensory cortex what it's about to feel so it can stop caring. This is also why your clothes disappear after a few minutes of wearing them. Why you stop hearing your own refrigerator until someone points it out. The brain files away anything it predicted. It only keeps what surprised it. Tickling is just what happens when that filtering completely collapses. When a sensation arrives that your brain had absolutely no warning about. You can't do that to yourself. You are the warning, every single time. Which is a strange thing to think about. The experience of being surprised, genuinely, physically surprised, requires that something happen outside of your own head. Your brain is so good at modeling itself that it's burned off that entire category of experience. You will never, in your life, know what you feel like to an outside person touching you. That gap between what you can feel and what others can make you feel is just built into the architecture, and it runs a lot deeper than tickling.
Did you know that ancient humans lived for an average of about 35 years before dying? But that's only partially true. I don't want to make this video too long by explaining it here, so watch the video you're seeing on your screen right now. And before you go to that video, like this video, share it, and tell me in the comments who tickled you the most in your lifetime.